It is Deborah Bishop, otherwise known as Reb Deb if you prefer, and welcome to Stop Selling Yourself Short and Closing the Biggest Deal of Your Life. This is a fun topic. It's a very broad topic, and it's one I love to talk about, and it's one I talk about primarily when I am dealing with people who are in the field of real estate, because it plays a little bit on the backyard that you guys are all familiar with of closing deals, short deals, all that good stuff, and it also speaks to the reality of what it might mean to be able to really close the biggest deals of your life, and that can be, of course, real estate deals, but it can also be getting healthy. It can be amazing relationships. It can be having a great relationship with yourself, with others, and with your bank account as well. So I just want to start with letting you know a little bit about what we're going to talk about tonight. And basically tonight we're going to kind of take a brief view as to where and how we get to where we are in life, because usually we end up in places where we think this is just kind of the way life is. It's just how life is. It's just the way it goes. And we don't necessarily realize that a lot of what's going on for us is related to what's actually a thought process that's running behind the scenes. Some people call it the unconscious or the subconscious. I just call it a foundational lie, because it's really a thought pattern that has existed for such a long time. It's actually wired into your nervous system. So we're going to touch a little bit upon how that happens. And I'm also going to give you a little something you can do starting right now that's actually going to really change the way that you experience life and the way that you can make things happen for yourself. Because anytime I speak or share, I really like to give people something they can take away right then and there and utilize. So first of all, who am I, Deborah Bishop, to be talking about this subject at all? I am an inner image authority, because you will never outperform your own self-image. And I have not only transformed my own life and my bank account, my health, my relationships, but I have helped hundreds and hundreds of clients at this point do exactly that same thing: transform their lives, transform their businesses, their lifestyles, and their bank accounts. It's been something I've been doing in one form or another professionally for 17 years, so pretty much since I got out of high school. And it's been a really amazing journey. It's been a fantastic vocation. I think one of the most significant things that I can talk about that I've done through my process has been to turn an income that was literally under $12,000 a year into one that was over $300,000 in 16 months roughly, and it wasn't changing what I did. Okay, it was actually changing how I functioned around what I did. So it's a significant thing to realize that a foundational lie, the way we program, the way we are programmed, and the way we think can actually affect everything that's happening for you, even your bank statements. So that said, I want to kind of dive in, because we have got roughly 20 minutes. And when I talk about foundational lie, I have a signature system called the Whole Wealth Breakthrough. Whole, because you need to be emotionally whole in order to move forward in life. Otherwise, remove the W and that's what you've got. And wealth, because, it's great to have a whole lot of money. And that is something that's important, especially if you want to have big impact on the planet or you want to live in comfort. But here's the deal, guys. If you have a lot of money, but you have no time freedom, to me, that is not wealth. If you have a lot of money, but your relationships have gone south, you're on your third divorce, then that is not wealth. And likewise, if you got a lot of money and you're not healthy enough to enjoy it, again, that's not wealth. So that's the premise of the Whole Wealth Breakthrough. And that is my signature system. And that is actually a 16-week system that we go through. And that's where I really dive into the foundational lie and the transformation of it. We got 20 minutes. So obviously, I cannot go through 16 weeks of material with you, but I can give you some highlights that I think really going to impact you in a positive way. So rather than talk about it, let's just get down to it. You have heard me mention the foundational lie, and I love to talk in terms of real estate because coincidentally, it coexists. Right? A foundation. What really is a foundation? Well, it's what you lay before you put a building on top of it, correct? And if we have a flawed foundation and we construct a building on top of that flawed foundation, right, there's going to be a problem with that. So yes, you could go ahead and build a big, beautiful home on a cracked or flawed foundation. Wouldn't advise it, probably going to have some challenges finding people doing that. But the truth is you could. And you could build a gorgeous home. And you could put the most beautiful flooring into that home, and you could put Venetian plaster on the walls. You could put designer furniture in there, artwork from the masters, and make this an absolute show home. But the problem with this idea is that even if it looks great, even if it's built beautifully, if the foundation itself is flawed, then that home is always at risk. No matter how good it looks, it is always vulnerable. Now, if you're lucky, it'll just settle funny, right? It'll get all wonky and funny. And then, you'll have to shore your furniture up to the right or to the left to kind of make everything look level. And you might want to consider for a second how your life reflects that. How are you shoring things up to the right, to the left, to kind of make it look level, but it really isn't, right? Now, if you're lucky on a flawed foundation, that's the worst you're going to get, is something settling weird. But, if you have a cracked or flawed foundation, more than likely, especially if you build a big house, a big structure on it, and there's more weight and so forth going into it, the vulnerability is going to be a problem. And more than likely, you could lose flooring, you could lose a room, or if you have a big, huge structure on this cracked foundation, the whole thing could actually come tumbling down. Doesn't matter how well it's built. It matters like what it's built on. Same principle with the foundational lie. Foundation, looking at it as the foundation of your life, and the home being a metaphor for the life that you build. You can build a big, beautiful, amazing, stunning life, but if you actually have a cracked foundation supporting that life, then it is always running the risk of being uneven, being out of balance, or the floor could cave in, or the room could cave in, or the whole thing could come tumbling down. And indeed, in many cases, the bigger the life, the harder the fall when the cracks to the foundation and the foundational lie actually start to show through. And this is something that's quite fascinating because I've been doing it for a long time. I developed it through a process. I call it my vocation of my own life. So everything I ask my clients to do, it's been something that I have done at one place or another in my life to create transformation. And this is common ground. I have worked with people from all over the world, and you know what? English may be their third language, but the foundational lie is the thing that we all have in common, which I find quite fascinating. So what is the foundational lie? It's very simple. It's a belief system that we entered into before we even had any idea what any of this actually meant. So it starts somewhere between the ages of 0 and 6. Now let's look at how we are between the ages of 0 and 6, or inception in 6 years, sometimes maybe 7 years of age. When we are born and we come into this life, we are, in essence, is kind of these amazing blank slates that are designed to grow, right? Designed to survive, designed to thrive to the best of our ability. And when we are born, we are on one channel. I call it the learning channel. Now, we're here to learn so that we can survive. So our one mission between 0 and 6, maybe 7 years of age, is to survive. And we survive through learning. Now, that means we're little sponges. We absorb everything around us. And Mother Nature actually works with us in a beautiful way by keeping us on one channel. So cognitively speaking, as far as our brain function goes, between the ages of 0 and 6, we are literally on one cognitive channel. Okay, so that channel is, again, the learning channel. We are at the source of it all. We are at the center of the universe. That is how we are designed. So the next time that somebody says, you are making it all about you, say, yes, I am, and I can't help it. Because it's true. The only thing we can do anything about is ourselves. And when we're that young, we literally do see ourselves at the absolute core or the center of the universe. Everything revolves around us. And we cannot see life any other way. Now, this is a really cool thing because it means we are not distracted. It means that there is nothing interfering with us learning how to recognize that these hands belong to us, the shapes, the textures, the colors, the sights, the sounds. It means it doesn't interfere with us learning language, learning gravity, how to walk. This is why you can teach a baby, literally teach a baby like 7 languages, and it will learn all 7 languages with seemingly effortless ease, because there's just nothing going on to distract that child from that learning process. So it's really a magical time. It's what we all attempt as adults to kind of get back to, but we really can't, because we have got way too many channels going on in our heads. When we're little, we have 1, okay, between 0 and 6. Now, between 6 and 7, depending on the maturity level of the child, right, between 6 and 7, Mother Nature kicks in and we get another channel turned on, and then another channel after that. And the brain develops now, they've proven, well into our 20s. And I think it's very arguable that it develops well past that too, if we know how to exercise it. But by the time we turn like 7 years of age, that's when we actually start to recognize that things that are happening outside of us have nothing to do with us. Up until that moment, it is completely impossible, implausible. There is nothing we can do to have us recognize that anything is separate from us. So I know everybody here has either had a child or been around a child. You know, when you're around little kids, you have to tell them where not to go, what not to touch. If they like somebody, they're going to crawl on that person's lap. You kind of have to tell them not to do that. Tell them to take the stuff out of their mouth. The reason for that is because little children function on the concept that everything belongs to them until you tell them different. So it's, again, an amazing time because we learn how to do so much, right? We really develop all of our cognitive abilities at that moment as far as sight and sound and taste and texture. We learn how to speak, all of that. Just imagine for a second what it might be like to have the life you have right now and try to learn how to walk at the same time, right? I mean, we'd fall down maybe 3 times and we'd be like, I'm done. Right? I can't do this. I'm too busy. We would never learn how to walk. So Mother Nature kind of knows what she's doing by keeping us on this channel. But the problem with this part of our life is that while it is kind of a magical time, it is also an incredibly vulnerable time for the exact same reason, because we cannot compute that something happening out there in the world doesn't actually have something to do with us. And this is where the foundational lie is actually born. It's in the moment that for the very first time, something happens in your environment, could be anything, that ends up leaving you feeling like, oh, you're not safe. Something happened. It's taken the center out of your sanctuary and you don't know what it is or why it happened, but suddenly you are left with this feeling that you are no longer safe. It is in that moment that the foundational lie actually takes root. Because when we're on this learning channel experience and we see ourselves at the center of this universe, it is literally impossible for us to recognize that something outside of us has taken place that we have nothing whatsoever to do with. So the minute that we don't feel safe and our survival is threatened, we go through that fight, flight, cortisol, the hormone releases into our body, and we are driven by the impulse to bring ourselves back to a state where we feel safe again. And the fastest way to do that is to basically ask the question in that moment on autopilot, pretty much, of what did I do wrong? That's our immediate response. This little teeny child is going to be like, what did I do wrong? The next thing that's going to happen, and it happens very rapidly, is the idea of how do I change this? How do I fix this? In essence, how do I restore my safety? And then here's the foundational lie. It's the memory we take away from this experience, which is, what have I learned from this? So, very quick little example. Little Susie's playing in the corner of the living room in her playpen. And little Susie is happy. She's got a huge imagination. She's really creative. She's got her toys. She is traveling the universe, okay? She is going out there. And now little Susie's parents are in the kitchen and they're arguing. Now, to little Susie, they have argued from the day she came home from the hospital. So this is nothing new. She doesn't even really pick up on it. That's kind of her normal, right? Whatever that child's born into, that is their normal. So that's not going to be anything that's going to throw her off. But for some reason, this particular argument gets heated enough and her parents are doing the dishes that something actually gets dropped or thrown, who knows, but something breaks and suddenly there's a loud crash. Now, little Susie, who's in the living room playing blissfully, hopping across the galaxy, all of a sudden goes, and that, in that moment, is the impulse that takes her to a place where she no longer feels safe. Something has happened. Now, when she's brought back to that startled, she suddenly realizes the loud noises in the kitchen, arguing going on. Now she's wondering, what did I do wrong? What do I need to do differently? Now, what she did wrong, well, obviously, to us talking right now, we can figure out she did nothing wrong. She was playing in the corner. She had nothing whatsoever to do with it. But to Susie, little Susie over there, she can't go, oh, yeah, Dad's out of work. Mom's holding down 2 jobs. The house is a mess. They're fighting. Nothing to do with me. I'm going to go back to playing. No, that's not going to happen. She's too little. She can't understand that. Her immediate response is, I don't like this. What did I do wrong? How do I fix it? So for her, the fact that she was off tripping the light fantastic with her imagination becomes something that's not okay to do. She learns in that moment she needs to be more vigilant. First thing she does. Now, the next thing is, how do I fix this? How do I restore it? There's a few responses she could have, but what I found typical of people in this situation that have similar stories is typically what they do is they start to get loud, right? She doesn't like the loud noise. She gets louder. What happens in most cases, child starts to scream, the parents recognize the child screaming, and then the mom or the mom and the dad or both parents, partners go over and they pick little Susie up. Well, what just happened? Now, all of a sudden, life kind of feels safe again, right? Now, in Susie's brain, we get to put together the equation that it's like, okay, need to be vigilant, right? Make sure I'm always watching. And if something happens that I don't necessarily like, all I have to do is be bigger than it or get louder than it. And if I do that, I get to have the attention, and that makes everything okay. So now here's the equation that grows into the beautiful foundational lie. Because now every time something happens that Susie doesn't like, she's going to try to control it, and she's going to try to be bigger than that or get louder than it or do whatever she has to do to be at the center of attention, because that will stop something bad from happening. And that might be great when she's 2 or 3 years of age. But when she's 25, that might really be a problem in the workplace or around her friends. And a little Susie growing up with that kind of foundational lie is like, well, we've all known somebody like this, right? She's a person that no matter what's happened to you, it's happened to her. And if it's really bad to you, it was really, really bad for her. Or she's somebody that is the class clown, or she could grow up to be a bully. But what she's trying to desperately do is just continually control her environment to prevent something bad from happening. Now, here's the irony of a foundational lie. Whatever we're trying to avoid, we pretty much ensure is going to happen. Because the beautiful thing about human beings is we are absolutely self-fulfilled prophecies. So if little Susie is going to continue to get louder and bigger to stop things from being bad, pretty much what she's ensuring is she's going to go from one bad thing to the next bad thing to the next bad thing to the next bad thing, because that's the thing she's trying to avoid. So I hope that makes sense. I will definitely ask for questions in just a couple of minutes, but I wanted to give you a basic sort of overview about what a foundational lie is. And so you could kind of try it on a little bit and see what comes up for you. Because every time I have this conversation, things do come up for people. And the thing you want to begin to ask yourself is, what are my expectations? What do I really think is going to happen when I try things, or when I go bigger, or when I really want to play all out, or I see a deal and I've never done a deal that size before? What are the things that stop me? Why do I doubt, if I do doubt? Or why do I run headlong into things and smack into a wall and it hurts? And that's how I learn, instead of actually just learning with a little bit more effortless ease. So what goes on that I believe that I have to be a certain way, or that's just just how life is. Because anytime you hear yourself repeating those thoughts or those ideas, you are actually beginning to get a glimpse at what I call the big neon arrow that's actually pointing at the work, at the thing that's inside of you that has you believing that life is hard or challenging, you got to work really hard, or no matter how much comes in, there's always more that goes out, or whatever the case may be. These things that you are experiencing are actually little hints of what your foundational lie might be. And I promise you, we all have them. It's whether or not we allow, or what they are, that structures to face the limits on whether they limit our bank accounts, or they limit our level of success, or they limit our ability to connect with one another, or if they limit our ability to just be in good health with ourselves. They're limiting us somewhere, and no matter where they're limiting, it may be prominent in your personal life and not as big in your business life, or prominent in your professional life and not as big in your personal life. But wherever it's reflecting, it is everywhere, because you can't live a segmented life. So I know I went really fast. I didn't mean to fire hose people, but this is a deep dive. This is a very, very deep dive, and it's a personal deep dive for everybody. And I feel like I kind of gave you the opportunity to stick your toe in the water, but I kind of have to pull you back a little bit too, because we can't open a can of worms and then I can just leave you with this open can of worms. That's not really fair. But I promise you, I will invite you to take this conversation further with me right at the end of my talk here, so that you have the opportunity to go deeper if you really want to. And what I'd like to do right now, before we open up for Q&A, is I'd like to give you a takeaway that you can use right now after getting off of this training to really have some transformation in your life right now. So hopefully you guys would all like that. Give me a thumbs up if you think that would be cool. Yay, thumbs up. Oh, come on, everybody. You're all sitting there. Everybody, thumbs up. Come on, let's see thumbs up. Yay. Okay, good. Most I see you, Mark. Okay, so let's talk about something that I love to call the universal drive-through window. All right. Now, the cool thing about the universal drive-through window is, again, you can tell I like metaphors. We can all relate to a drive-through window. Not that we ever go to drive-through restaurants, right? No, you shouldn't anyway. Or pick the healthy thing on the menu. But that said, when you go to a drive-through window, what happens? Right? You look at what you want, you place your order, you pull forward, and you pretty much get what you asked for. Well, what if you could think about life in exactly the same way? What if life is just one big universal drive-through window, and everything that you speak out into this beautiful drive-through window is the order that you're placing for your experience? And what if the emotional context you have around whatever you're talking about is literally letting you know how fast or how slow things are going to come to you and whether or not they're going to be accessible? So let's look at it this way. When you go to a drive-through window and you order a triple burger with double cheese and a quintuple side of bacon, nobody, the person that you're giving your order to, the cooks who are preparing it, not one person there is going to go, that's not really healthy and maybe you want to reconsider your order, right? Nobody says that. They're just going to tabulate it up, tell you how much you owe, you're going to pull forward, and they're going to give you whatever it is that you order. Well, it's kind of like that with the universe too, okay? Whatever you order, doesn't matter if you've ordered, a pound of struggle with a side of success and then a topping of failure. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you're speaking, whatever you believe to be true for yourself, and however emotionally committed you are to that conversation, it is going to reflect back to you. It is going to allow you to have a positive or a negative experience. It's going to allow you to enjoy or to kind of struggle through your life around certain topics and certain subjects. And where people probably have the most unconscious conversations are around the things that have the deepest and most significant meaning to them. So the thing I want you to take away today, to just literally start applying in your life, is to start paying attention to how you're talking about things in your life. How are you literally representing the things that you want to have happen in your world, or the things you don't want want to have happen, because it works both ways. What are you focused on? How are you talking about it? If this were true, and this is just a what if scenario, what if this is a big universal drive-through window? If this were true, are you really placing the order that you truly want? So that's what the question I want you to take. Are you really placing the order that you truly want? You want to take that and begin to apply that in your life wherever you think about it. Write that question down. Remember it. Just ask yourself every once in a while when you come away from a conversation and go, if this is placing an order, did I just order what I really wanted? Because you'd be amazed at how unconscious we are at making things hard and challenging, how often we say, that'll never happen, how often we say, oh, that person, that particular trade, oh, they're really terrible to work with. You've got them in your business, right? The people oh my gosh, if we work with that, yeah, they're always so hard. Oh, it's always 3 times longer and 5 times more expensive, blah, blah, blah. We have to become really aware of how we're talking about things. And again, we are nothing if not self-fulfilled prophecies. So you can say, yes, Deborah, I get what you're saying, but the truth is that I have this experience. It's like, okay, the more dedicated you are to having the experience, the more you're going to have the experience. What if you could actually change that? Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen in a short period of time if you truly begin to apply yourself. And what this practice will also do is it will also illuminate some of your resistance and your doubts, some of those big neon arrows that are actually pointing at some of the root work, the foundational work that you may decide to do at some point. I highly, highly recommend everybody do work on the foundational lie, because it's quite amazing how much it impacts and you may not even be aware of it. So definitely anything that points us in the direction that can help us to get clearer on how we are limiting ourselves is an amazing gift and something you really want to take advantage of. And that's what this exercise, the universal drive-through window, will help you to do. It will help to illumine some of the areas where you might have resistance or where you might be battling with yourself. Okay, so I hope that you found that helpful. And I am going to ask, I think, Andre, I'm asking you if you could maybe put up the handout and the PDF. I have something for you to either download or to take with you, and that actually has some contact information. And there's an invitation on there, guys. And the invitation is for us to continue this conversation, to actually put you on my calendar for just a little quick chat. It's like a 15-minute chat where we can set up my gift to you guys, my complimentary clarity session, which is a session that takes roughly about 45 minutes. And the one thing I guarantee it will do, it will give you a 360-degree perspective on where you are right now and how you got there. Again, the big neon arrow. This is essential for anybody who wants more out of life, period. You want to know how you got to where you are right now. And we get so focused, we put on blinders, right? We lose our peripheral vision. So a clarity session is about giving you your peripheral vision back. And if you take advantage of this clarity session, I put together a little special bonus for you as well. I will give you a copy of one of my number one favorite products from clients, and that is the PRIME program. It's the Primary Entrepreneur's Equation. I will give that to you. This is a really unique way of learning how to quantify and qualify your return on an investment, your personal return on investment. And I think anybody who is entrepreneurial in any way deserves to know this formula, because it really is life-changing. It helps you to learn what to say yes to and also to learn what to say no to. And on this handout, there's also a few tips. There's the 3 tips for increasing the momentum in your life and your business. I'm reading it because I don't have it in front of me, but take advantage of that. There's 3 good tips. There are 3 things we actually touched upon in this talk. And it's challenging for me to talk 25 minutes, but I think I pulled it off. I probably spoke a little bit too fast, but I hope you guys tracked with me, and I would love to open up for any questions right now. So if anybody's got questions or comments, I would love to hear them. Did I fire him, sir? Yes. Yeah.
Now that you describe me to a T as little Susie, and I'm hungry for a triple burger at McDonald's. So, okay. without going to and I take you up on both of those bonus things, but as and I wanted to, I just told him, I was talking with Hugh Hilton the other day, and he said exactly the same thing about asking the universe for the positive, your positive response. Tell them what exactly the universe. Tell it exactly what you want. Ask the universe for a positive. I want this. You ask for negative, you get negative. Basically, just what you said, and I firmly believe that.
The hard part about the equation, Mark, is that you can ask for the positive all you want, but if there's something inside of you that is basically not believing it's possible, that piece of you, regardless of how small it is, and the smaller it is, usually the louder it is, it's just running on autopilot. And the foundational lie has actually been around for so long, it has wired into your nervous system. It's actually how your neurons fire. There is a way to change that, but because it is such an automatic behavior, if there is doubt and if there is deflection or resistance, you can say the most positive thing day after day after day, and it won't actually happen in the way you would like it to. It may happen in little bits and pieces around, but that thing that you really want will always be just a few feet away, because there's another part of you that is literally keeping it away from you. And that's something that can be really frustrating for people. And I know I've worked with clients that they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars going to major personal development seminars and working with therapists and coaches and this and that. And they've benefited from all of it, but they still aren't where they want to be. And it's because of that foundational lie, that piece of themselves that is literally kind of holding the rest of their life for ransom. Not meaning to sound totally dramatic, but it is kind of like that.
I like it.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, you're talking on a very...
Deborah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I don't think you interrupted.
Oh, no, I want to... Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Oh, I just wanted to, mine is more of a comment. I just wanted to say thank you. I resonated with so much of what you said, and I did track along. It wasn't too fast. And I'm online right now, signing up for my 15-minute chat. So
Yay.
I think you are so exciting to listen to, and I mean, it was just, you hit the spot for me on what I needed to hear this week. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I will look forward to speaking with you in person. And what was your name?
I'm Eva Nightingale.
Eva, wonderful. Nice to meet you, and thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Marcus, in here?
Marcus.
Oh, good.
Hi, my name is Forrest White, and this topic sounds deeply introspective, not the typical thing that I usually get exposed to at a real estate meeting, but I understand the content. So would one expect us to go back to our 0 through 6 years and figure out what went wrong?
Well, great question. And sort of in a matter of speaking, yes, but no. The process of figuring out the foundational lie, the understanding of targeting kind of where it began is very important. But the process of actually discovering it doesn't really require that we have to travel back to our childhood and spend a whole bunch of time trying to sort it out. It's more that we start working through a concept that turns the volume up in our head, so we start to actually begin to understand what it is that we're saying saying to ourselves, what's been saying, how things are firing, where the resistance lives. And as we do that, we start to recognize patterns and triggers. So it's like it builds upon itself and it exposes itself to us. But there's a way of revealing it. I don't believe in necessarily spending a whole lot of time in the past other than to allow it to guide us to the things that we need to pay attention to. And really what we're doing is we're learning how to access what I call our emotional guidance system. The brain synapse actually goes around the heart and down into the solar plexus. The whole synapse of the brain goes all the way through to what we would call our intuitive nature. So the feeling part of who we are is as much and in fact, it is in partnership with the thinking part. It is very important to understand how we feel. And for most people, the emotional guidance system, that's my term for it, is typically shut down because one of the things we're taught to do at a very young age is deny our feelings and to sort of stop acting on our impulses and our own intuition. We're actually taught not to trust ourselves. We're not taught to be leaders. We're taught to be followers. And so part of tracking what a foundational lie is kind of turning all those lights back on again and helping us to understand how our emotions serve us and how our emotional guidance system can help us recognize our triggers, and therefore we are able to actually rewire from that point. So yes, 0 to 6 is where the foundational lie begins, and typically there's actually between 5 and 7 foundational lies in our life that start from 0 and go all the way through to when we're a young adult, and there's different occurrences that create them, but they all relate back to that very first time that we didn't feel safe. And in order to track that, we just simply need to turn the volume up, and we do that through reconnecting to our emotions, and then from there we actually start to rewire the neurons in our brain, because how our neurons fire is how they wire. So we have to understand how they're firing in order to change that. Does that make sense?
Phrase you were using, foundational lie, L-I-E.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like telling a lie.
So you're suggesting that bad experiences in our 0 to 6 years of age may cause us to automatically sabotage our opportunities.
Bad experiences at that age have us go to an auto response, which is, what did I do wrong? In essence, what did I do to deserve this? Why did this happen to me? What did I do wrong? Had a client that was basically their mother wasn't able to raise them, and they ended up putting the child into the child welfare system when the child was 3 years of age. That child grew up into being an adult and had no idea that underneath every decision they were making, they were protecting themselves against being abandoned. And so they were abandoning every opportunity that ever came their way that was looking really good. They would step away from it. They had no idea why or what was going on. They just knew that things wouldn't work out. Things would start to look really good, and then they would fall apart. It was their own sense of abandonment that was going on because they were trying to avoid ever having something like that happen again on an emotional level. But the problem with it was they were so disconnected from the process, they didn't understand that every trigger that was going off and their auto response to it was actually driving the bus, if you will. They thought they were. So, this is the significance of what happens. Now, it's not every bad event that may happen to a child. It's the first one that creates the idea of what we think we can expect from life. And then we start to filter the rest of the experiences through that until by the time that we're an adult, we have a whole series of filters, a whole series of expectations and a belief system that pretty much is the life we get to live. If we believe things are hard, they're hard. If we believe things are effortless, they actually become a lot less effort-filled. Good grammar there. But they become effortless. Yes?
Your comment on a short story. I'm sure you're familiar with Coco Chanel of Chanel 5, the famous perfume. Her mother died of tuberculosis when she was 12, and shortly thereafter, her father dropped her off with her sisters at the local orphanage and took off. And yet she somehow managed to make a great success from her life. Mm-hmm. How would you explain that?
Well, the thing is if you look at Coco Chanel's life, she made a huge success of her professional life. But if you really get into the heart and soul of that woman, you'll realize that her personal life was not that hugely successful. So again, these things show up in different ways for people. And we also have to realize that when Coco Chanel went through, and I'm not saying a foundational light doesn't mean, that's why I use the metaphor of having a cracked foundation in a house. You can still build a big, beautiful house on that cracked foundation. It doesn't necessarily stop somebody from building a great life. It can, but the thing it does do is it puts limiters. It puts something out there, the meaning that there's a cost, a price that we all pay that we don't necessarily have awareness that we're paying, and to whatever degree. Some of it can be really harsh. There are some people that are so ready for this conversation because they so get that there's something holding them back, and there's other people that are like, you know what, I'm doing okay. I got enough going on, and that's great. My point to people who are doing okay is, well, if you're doing okay, and this may still be going on for you, how much more incredible could your life be if it was released at this level as well? So Coco Chanel is a wonderful example, but she's also someone you have to realize that sometimes that public persona and that private reality are not always in alignment. And then the other thing that I've become very privy to, because I have parents that are now in the last chapter of their lives, and I've spent a lot of time in the last few years around seniors. One of the things, or I shouldn't say seniors, I should say octogenarians. One of the things I've seen is that people who have had turmoil that has not been settled, they've kept busy, they've built lives, they've raised families, they've gone forth, they've conquered in this life. What I've seen and witnessed now firsthand, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90 years of age, is that these are the things now that are actually haunting them. And some people at that stage where you would hope that they would be peaceful, they're not, because they're like, why did this happen to me? And, just to share a very personal note, because I tend to do that, my mother is one of those people. She is really, unfortunately, very angry and bitter at this stage in her life. And she's had a beautiful life. She had and has a very dominant foundational lie, and it haunts her. And I hope that she'll find peace with it, because as much as I can help and have helped hundreds of clients, it's interesting that I can't necessarily find that place to help my mom. It's ironic, but true.
Yeah, my parents used to tie me up in the corner and then, maybe play with the radiator. That's why I don't like to tie my shoes now.
Okay, good.
I don't like that confined thing.
Are you serious?
So I want to be very honored, aware of time. I think we're like about 40 minutes in from where I started, somewhere in there. So I want to make sure that I'm not going over time for anything.
Perfect timing.
But I really appreciated the comments, the question, the input. It's great. And you can probably all tell I could talk about this till the cows come home. It is truly a passion of mine in this life. People fascinate me, their patterns, their habits, the reasons for them. And, the thing that's most fascinating to me, and I've witnessed it firsthand, not only in my own life personally, but with some clients that have done some really phenomenal things, no matter where you are. And you're the only one to know truly where you are and what that might mean. But no matter where you are in life, you can literally be anywhere, do whatever you want when you can recognize how to truly clear the path and literally get all your triggers taken care of and have your own self become the greatest supporter and the greatest manifester in your life. It is truly possible, no matter where you might be right now. So I really have loved sharing this time with you, and I thank you guys, and I wish you all much, much, much success. I look forward to coming back and doing this again, Mark, and sharing a little bit more. Please take advantage of the offer. Get yourself on my calendar so we can meet. Let's get your clarity session scheduled. I'll get you a copy of Prime. You will really love that. It's a cool little program. And, I wish you all peace and health.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you.